Hello folks, we are going to be talking today about some 3D printing. I have spoken to my friend Shemek here, who's going to be joining us. That is right, did I pronounce that right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's quite correct.
Yeah, it only took me several months. No, I'm here with my friend Shemek, and we are going to be talking about 3D printing today, because it's something that I spoke about with Warboss Fitz a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, and he had his own opinions on it. So Warboss Fitz is a really cool guy. Go and watch his YouTube channel. He is a customer of 3D printing. He does 3D printing at home for his own personal use. But I thought it'd be really, really interesting to get somebody on the show who actually is putting their money where their mouth is and is making a 3D printing business, and one that I think looks quite snazzy, especially from the lovely models that I've got. And I've got a few questions here for him that we're going to go through today, but if you've got any questions for Shemek, put them in the comment section down below. I'm sure he will be around to talk your ear off about things that you may want to ask him about 3D printing, getting into it, and all that fun stuff. How are you today, man? You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I've been fighting down a cold for the last 4 days to be fit for this conversation, so I'm happily winning. So I hope it continues this way. And other than that, yeah, the day was quite lovely because it's already dark here. Yeah, I'm fine.
I keep forgetting that Poland is like way ahead. Isn't that like an hour or two ahead of the UK?
It's an hour normally,
Yeah.
but because it's a bit further to the east, the sun comes down earlier. So,
all right, cool. Let's jump into some questions, and if you're up for that, let's jump into some. So, for those of you not in the know, Shemek is actually the proprietor and main man over at Minimaker, and Minimaker is a business that I will be promoting from next week on the channel. So if you are looking for any sort of 3D printing models, I will be showing the storefront a bit later on with some of his models on there too, and I've actually got some models to show off that I haven't painted yet, but I have put together, so I'll show them on the video too as we go along. But I've written down some questions here that I wanted to ask, and that a few of my patrons also wanted to ask about 3D printing. And the first one is, it looks really difficult being in 3D printing as a business, right? So why start a 3D printing store in the first place? Did you see a gap in the market?
So yeah, I did. I thought that this is something that a market that's not yet very much developed, and an emerging technology that did not see its final form yet. It has been an option, a technical option for many, many years, but the customer level or desktop level printers, that's only last 5 years or so, and maybe 3 or 2 years. It's only that short that we had printers that are capable of quality that can compare to plastic injection, mold injection miniatures. So this kept me thinking that maybe this is a viable option to turn this into a profitable business. And that actually, this conclusion landed very well in certain time in my life, that I was old enough to realize that a job that I was preparing for a very long time didn't give me any enjoyment, and I actually don't like it. So I made a difficult decision, having kids already, or an irresponsible decision, we'll see it, to start doing something that I actually like and see how it goes. So I hope this marriage of a market opportunity and something that gives is actually a fun work to do will work out quite nice.
That's cool. I mean, it is a very brave thing to do. I've said on the channel loads that you need to. I get it in hobby nightmares all the time. I'm sure you've seen a few of them. I know you watch the channel sometimes, even though you're really busy.
I've seen all of them.
Oh, good man of culture. So, I always say, look, if you're not happy in the job you have, make sure you got something in the bank to live on for a bit go away and basically melt your mind. Go and find what you want to do. I've recently, one of my friends is leaving his job pretty soon, I think, of several years, and I've said to him, listen, man, go somewhere nice and cheap, go to India or something, and just be there for a month or two, get your head straight, figure out what you want to do, and come back. Could be Japan, could be wherever. Just go somewhere else, figure it out, and come back. And I don't know, I know you didn't do that because you've got a family and stuff, but it is really cool that you literally saw not a gap in the market from what you've described, but a need of, you know, a lot of your friends want to do 3D printing, a lot of the people around you say, yeah, I would love to do 3D printing, but don't have the space, that kind of a thing. And you've actually seen that and gone for it. That's a really ballsy thing to do. Can I just ask, and I know it's a personal thing, but like, what was your family's reaction to you saying, listen, I'm going to go do this now?
So my wife actually was noticed that a while back that I was not happy with what I was doing. So she was really supportive of the idea of me doing something that was my hobby, or something related to miniatures, which was my hobby for many, many years. And she has seen an opportunity, you know, for a good long-term solution to some like negative experiences that I had in job, and my conclusions that were coming out of it. And the decision was not easy because I'm an IT engineer, and the job was pretty lucrative, and especially in comparison to average salary here in Poland, it was like a no-brainer to stay in it, even if it's boring or doesn't give you enjoyment. But my wife was very supportive because she did see the long game in it. That how many more years can I do something that I don't like very much? And of course, I had the luxury of making this decision only because I was I felt financially secure, thanks to the kind of job I was doing. So this kind of move, it's not something I would recommend to someone who would struggle making this decision, because you can always fail, and there is the further question, what's next? So you left your job, you failed at something that you wanted to do. What's your safety net? What's your backup plan? Because I am aware that whatever I do in business, the market conditions may change. Maybe 3D printing will not catch on in the level, in the scale that I would like it to, and you know, that's something I take into consideration. But if you have the comfort of making the decision to leave something that isn't working for you and try something new, do it, definitely. But you have to do it responsibly. Like, if you don't have kids, that's an easier decision. Yeah. In my case, I had this running around all the time in my head that whatever I do, it's not only my enjoyment or my satisfaction from the professional side of life that comes into play. That's actually several mouths to feed, and my kids do like to eat a lot, so you know, it costs money, and I put it definitely ahead of what I want and what I think, which would be probably a natural thing to do or responsible thing to do. But once I decided, I have the luxury, I have the comfort that I can make the decision, I did.
That's cool, man. I like these answers. They're pretty cool. All right. One thing that I am really interested in, because we had the Eman-G scenario earlier on in the year, if you remember that, that blew up. And if you don't remember that, folks, that is nice guy, Eman-G. Spoken to him a few times. And essentially, he was sued by Games Workshop to cease production on some of his models on his own 3D printing service that he'd ripped directly from certain Warhammer 40,000 video games and well, not Warhammer 40,000, Warhammer Fantasy Battles video games like Warhammer Total War, things like that. How do you stay ahead and clear of legal entanglements and problems? Because when I look at some of these, models. They're amazing to look at. Like I really, and again, I'm going to show a few of mine on the screen in a sec. But these Ultramarines looking models, like literally the Gravis Princeps squad and things like that, are, when I think of Ultramarines and how I would make them in the Exile verse and things like that, this is what they look like. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is especially like the Battle Sisters, like the let me just go back here. We're looking at the Blessed Sisters, sorry. Some of their models are absolutely, like, if I'm looking at a Caliber Knight warrior, like from the Dark Angels homeworld, this is what they look like, you know, even though they are female. Like, these are badass miniatures. So, but they are recognizable in what game they're probably supposed to be in. Do you know what I mean? Like, in Grimdark Future or 40k. So how would you stay clear of, like, entanglements and things like that?
Yeah, so I'm glad that you like the miniatures, and that's a really important question, because I think that in order to succeed, or for the 3D printing business at all to catch on and be a viable alternative, it needs to be legal, and it cannot enter the shady zone of we know what we are doing is not exactly kosher, but we are doing it anyway. And there is, always a wink that you are aiming at the same audience that Games Workshop does.
Sure, yeah.
But it needs to be legal, otherwise it will never catch on. And what I aim to do is to include only the models that are that present some kind of creativity, genuine creativity of the person that did them. It's not a. I'm trying to make sure that all of the models that I upload, and I'm uploading them constantly. It's less than half of what I have currently. So if you don't find something in the store, do let me know, because I have still lots of things to add since I started recently. And the things that I add are always vetted to be creative in some way, to present a vision of the person who sculpted them. Mm-hmm. And I am aware that people will probably in most cases use them for games made by Games Workshop, although all the nomenclature that they use on the store is taken from OPR and the Ninth Age, which is the rank and file game, community based. And I am looking to make sure that the models are legal. I, of course, may make the arbitrary decision if they are distinct enough, if they are original enough, genuine enough, and search the history of the creator. I actually was looking for DMCAs that the guys were getting, and getting a DMCA and functioning afterwards, to me, was the proof that their legality was questioned, and the company that was questioning it has no further questions about it.
Okay.
So that's the case, for example. That's the case, for example, the author of the Sisters that you were mentioning, Daka store. They have awesome models. If you are printing yourself, go and check them out. They are amazing. And these guys were hit several times by a DMCA from Games Workshop. They did adjust some things because in some cases they were not presenting the models right, or they didn't sculpt the models according to their vision in a distinct enough way. And they were adjusting their ways. They wanted to stay in a legal business, which is a very healthy sign for me that, of course, they are targeting the same audience, because for now, wargaming is more or less a monopoly market. Of course, there are historical games and so on, but in terms of power on the market, Games Workshop is the only major player.
I think what the tightrope, isn't it? Like, competition isn't illegal. Do you know what I mean? And I think Games Workshop tend to forget that sometimes. I think they seem to think, no, we own nuns in space. No, you don't, actually. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't own the concept of nuns in space. You don't even own the concept of feudalism in space, because you get most of those ideas from Dune. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's... I do see sometimes when they come down on creators like this, it's literally just, you know, you're making these things, you're stepping on our toes, but really, they don't really have legal recourse, because if some guy wants to 3D print nuns in space and says, listen, these are for grim dark future, but you know, and they don't say you can use them in 40k, these are for grim dark future, but of course you can use them in 40k if you really wanted to, if you're in a decent store. There's no legal recourse to that. Like, it's literally, they're not using the name Astartes, they're not using any Games Workshop trademarks, they're literally putting nuns in space, you know?
Yeah, that's true. They do not own everything, but there are several things that they do own, and it has to be kept in mind. But definitely, I think the legal department that they have is more overactive in this area, because maybe there is some kind of assumption in the company that they are wargaming. They define fantasy and science fiction wargaming, which is not the case. Because for a long time, like, they were in the position of the people that they are now suing. Because, for example, the entire concept of chaos, for chaos gods, or the distinction between chaos and order, that's not their thing. That's not their concept. That's Murkoch's idea, from what I know. So that's one thing. I think there was some kind of division there, that they were like rebranding too much stuff. So they were actually very on the nose with some things that they were doing, up to the point that I don't know if you knew about this renaming that was done sometime during Age of Sigmar.
The Wardin and the Aelfs and all this nonsense.
No. The spelling errors that are actually introduced, that's to be able to copyright dwarf or elf or orc, because otherwise they couldn't make this their own property, or ogre instead of ogre. But that's you can just disregard that. But what they actually did wrong is that they ripped off a character from Marvel. In Malekith the Witch King. The exact wording of that's a character from Marvel, which you actually could see in second Thor movie. He was the antagonist there. And
I didn't know that. You mean Malekith,
Yeah, exactly. A guy named Malekith, the Witch King, king of the Dark Elves, a race called Dark Elves. That's a character taken one-to-one from Marvel. And if you see now to the books regarding the Old World or current lore in Age of Sigmar, there is no character named Malekith, because after 30, 40 years of lore and him being one of the central characters of the setting, first one and the second one, he was straight up renamed with absolutely no explanation to Malerion.
I think when we look at this kind of thing, like they do this all the time. Like I'm a huge fan of Berserk, and if you've watched, if you buy any of my books, or many of my RPGs, you'll know how much of a fan of a Berserk I am, because it's in everything that I do. But they literally took Griffith and just said, yeah, this is Fulgrim now. And just put him in 40k. I say that all the time. I'm like a broken record with that, but it is. I think it's very. The one thing I wanted to highlight there is that a lot of people, when they're looking at 3D printing services, they don't want to get too invested. Do you know what I mean? Because they're like, well, what if this guy just goes away one day and I don't get to do any of these models anymore? I look at this storefront and I want entire armies based from Minimaker's selected. I want an army, but if that goes away, like, I'm like, well, now I'm left in the lurch. I've got this army that I can't get any more reinforcements for, or I'll need to go and source some alternatives that makes my army look higgledy-pickledy, and there's it's from different sources. So I think the way that you approach curation is very clever in that you treat it seriously or like a serious business. Like I'm not putting you on my store unless I vet you first. You know, I need to know that it and the way you said it before, when you said, I want them to have had a DMCA before, because then if they've gotten past that, I know it's kosher. That's that's really clever. Like for me, I'll be honest, I wouldn't have thought of that. I would have just been like, oh, you've not had any DMCA takedown notices. That's great. Cool. Let's move ahead. But really, what you want is for Games Workshop to challenge what they've done and for them to work between the lines enough with Games Workshop so Games Workshop go, yeah, that's okay. That's what you want.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and also it has to be legal, because it now 3D printing is some way it sometimes is treated the same way that, I don't know, cryptocurrencies are. That it's assumed to be illegal, and it cannot be this way if this is to become a viable option on the market. It cannot be associated with piracy or anything. And I am a strong supporter of the approach that if you want the model, the actual model, go and pay the author. It's still not fair. Theft is still not fair if the author of the thing that you're stealing is a huge, supposedly soulless corporation. They are still the owner. Go and pay them. And I do support going to Games Workshop if you like this specific model. And
essentially,
that's
if they're
also
providing a service, reward that service. But if they're not, then don't. It's just simple as. And again, it's that negative connotation of, oh well, you know, Games Workshop are the hobby, or Games Workshop deserve to. No. They seem to think they're the arbiters of sci-fi in space or feudalism in space, and they're not. You know. Yes. I think they've lost sight of the fact that they have to provide a service at some point, especially when I see models like the abductors that you have on the store. Like, you know, these are literally what Gene Stealers should look like. Literally what Gene Stealers should look like. Games Workshop could do models like this because, you know, Joe Schmo is doing models like this. Den of Imagination is doing models like this, and they are like 1/100th the size of Games Workshop, and they are producing models of this quality. Nobody can tell me Games Workshop can't simply, in a couple of weeks, cook something up that is similar with the talent that they have at their disposal. They choose not to, right? They choose not to.
They could, definitely. There are tons of talented people. Many of them are working in Nottingham or in some way remote for Games Workshop. But this is actually one of the things that attracted me to 3D printing, because I think that, of course, with the respective scale, the paradigm shift that we are going through right now bears a little bit of resemblance to what happened with digital photography. Because we have a breakthrough that now you can get your miniatures in some other way than mass-produced stuff only available to some companies that can financially support a batch of 10,000 copies of the same miniature. Before that, indie game stores did not have the possibility or the reach to, supply the models worldwide. And now, with the 3D modeling skills that are widely available on courses, on universities, whatever, it has absolutely no meaning where are you. You can just sculpt on your computer after hours. You can have a day job and then go to your sculpting in the afternoon and still produce awesome models. And now having portals like My Mini Factory or something like this, or Patreon, you have the means to sell them. So with 3D printing now, we have the enabler for a huge talent pool that is spread around the world that was unavailable for us previously. And we can access that as customers, because before, if you were a talented sculptor and you were not living near to the place that could hire you as a sculptor, and they could hire you only if they had a prospect of selling the models you sculpt, then you had absolutely no means to monetize on your talent. And now it doesn't matter. Just sculpt whatever you want, post it on the internet, provided it's legal, of course, and off you go. And now the talent pool and also different approach to art is available worldwide, because based on different cultures, you may interpret some motifs or some topics differently. For example, some of the models I have on the store are from a Brazilian author called Claymore Miniatures. They sculpt the same things differently than of Imagination, which is actually a Polish company and a painting studio. And also some folks over in Nottingham working for Games Workshop will understand the same concept in a completely different way. And that's valuable for us as customers, or for me as a provider of the service, to be able to offer a wide variety. And that's what I also try to do. Of course, it's as of yet not possible for me to present alternatives for a faction, for example, dwarves. Some people like the old school style of very chunky dwarves. Some prefer more human-like proportions. And I try to offer both, just to give you some choice, to let you choose what you want in your own hobby, because I'm not here to tell anyone. I don't, as a customer, I don't want to be told what I should have in my hobby. That's my private thing. And that's also the same. That's a different case for anyone. For every person, this may be according to their own taste or their own cultural background. And I try to provide the choice, in which case it means the same model from a different author. But I think the talent pool that we have now, only now, allows for that. Before that, you had a couple big manufacturers, most of them located near Nottingham, in the thing that I think it's called the Lead Belt.
The Lead Belt, yeah.
So yeah, that's a single pool of talent, people from mostly the same backgrounds and ethnicities. You don't have that much diversity there.
No, I mean, okay. I think right now I've got a unit of Kingdom Rangers on the screen that is from the store. Now I've gotten a few of these from Minimaker myself, and I'm gonna pay some bills for you here, I think. Because I've built mine in a slightly different way, because I want mine to be more combat oriented, and I'm not brave enough to go ahead and do the banner bearer just yet, because I don't have time to paint him. And these aren't painted, this guy is not painted, but this is the kind of quality you'll be looking at. So I bought myself this Kingdom Rangers command group, right? And here is one of the gaming standard pieces. So this is not the top standard that Minimaker comes up with that is sent to you or when it gets to you. This is just gaming standard. This is the middle of the road grey miniature that you'll see in the storefront in a minute. This is what I got. Those are my lovely fingers that are there holding the model up in a nice bit of light. And I think the design of this model is far in excess of what Games Workshop actually are able to do with similar kinds of models. I mean, the actual saddlebags, I know it sounds weird, but I'm more attached to those saddlebags and the actual drapery on the horse, the cladding, than I am with anything else in the model. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Like it's just literally the horse being in motion, you know? If you're into fantasy battles, if you are into old school Warhammer, these are the kind of things you want for people like Bretonia. This is the kind of thing that even somebody who doesn't like Bretonia would look at and go, that's a cool ass model. That's a really cool model. Again, I can't really describe how cool these look when they're actually all together in a line, you know, and I can't wait to paint them as well. But the level of detail, even in a gaming standard piece, again, this is not the highest level that we've got on Minimaker, right? This is a standard piece, middle of the road, middle pricing, that is there for you to just go and get and use on the tabletop. They're a bit stronger and they're less brittle than the really detailed models. But as you can see, I mean, I say this is less detailed, but look at the detail on this model. You could be here for as long as you want painting this model. And this is just one of your command squad. You know, I'm actually using them in my own RPG slash wargame as a normal cavalry unit because I just think they look badass, and it's inspired me to write lore and rules about the different sigils that this guy has on his back. He has a bear on his back, so I'm going to make a noble house around that. But if you go back to the store here, you can actually see, you can select what kind of model you want. You can have a gaming one that I've got there. I just showed you the gaming one. We have a budget one, which is a lot less, but is a different resin color altogether. And of course we have the display one, which is an orange resin, which is very, very, very high quality. Not as tough as the other models, but they're not meant to be used in gaming. Whereas your gaming one, it's my favorite one. It's the best of both worlds, right? The detail quality is slightly less, but it's as a gaming piece, absolutely fantastic. So we do. Did you have a promo code up and ready for me to put in the comment section a little bit later on?
Yeah, so it will be available in the description as you mentioned, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone would like to use my service, please do, and there will be a discount for everyone who watches Northern Exile. And I am really happy to hear what you're saying, because it confirms a bit that maybe I'm doing a decent job. But regarding the choice that I wanted to provide with my business to the customers, everyone needs something different in their hobby, and the quality of the prints, that's something that I wanted to diversify depending on who is buying the model. Because yes, the gaming quality is not the highest detail, which would be the display, but it is way tougher. It's meant for everyday use miniatures. If it falls down from a table, it should not break, just like plastic miniatures don't. Mm-hmm. It's meant for the exact same use as plastic miniatures. It has to endure, and if I don't know, you breathe too hard next to some resin miniatures, they break. This one won't. This miniature, type of resin is actually pretty flexible, and it can be modified with a hobby knife or some clippers. It should be way softer than normal resin, and this is its main point, that gaming is meant at, as the name suggests, gaming. Because in 3D printing, for resin, for all these materials that are that you can use in resin 3D printing, you have several dials, so to say, for different properties of the material. One is the ability to actually show the detail, the precision and sharpness of details that you can express with the miniature. And the other one is for toughness, to simplify it. I'm also not an expert on that. I'm not a chemist, so I couldn't explain all the details behind it. But I could simplify this for myself, and maybe this would be also helping for everyone listening, that if you imagine some dials that you want to bump up some detail quality, then you cannot do that with absolutely no consequences on the toughness of the material.
Sure, yeah. I think we're looking at I'm looking at Guard right now, and the amount of Guard fans that I know will be out there going, "Oh my God, there's some new Guard models." Yes, there are, and you can see the quality. And the one thing I wanted to point out is that a lot of these websites that I go on, one, they don't look as good as this, which is great. But like the other thing is that when I see the STL file model, they don't actually show the model there. It's all STL files. Well, I was surprised by the quality when it got here, because I'm always very skeptical. I'm always very much like, okay, the file looks great when it's in a computer, but what's the printing technique like? What does the model actually look like when it gets to me? And I'm actually going to be putting together some of the Space Marine snipers later. Gravis Princeps snipers. And they look spectacular. I've put one together. It looks brilliant, and I was very, very, very surprised by the quality for the price. I didn't think this was possible. Like, I did a video a few years ago when I was talking about 3D printing, and I was like, dude, we're like 10 years away from them taking over Games Workshop. Let's be honest, you know what I mean? Now, I'm not so sure. Like, I am really not so sure. I think with certain models like the cavalry model I was showing before, I think pretty much we're already there. Because if I got this from a Games Workshop set, I'd be incredibly happy. I'd be like, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted from a cavalry unit. Brilliant. You know, Games Workshop, best models in the world, as you do, right? This is great. Like, and getting models like this from a 3D printing service is kind of, I don't know. I kind of feel cheated. Like, why hasn't anyone
cheated?
told me? Why hasn't anyone told me this before? Like, I've literally been spending so much money on Games Workshop products, and I'm just like, well,
yeah,
if these were here all along. But I guess, you know, it depends on the service. It depends where you go for your service and what kind of a store you're going for. But I know a fair few Guard fans who will be salivating at the mouth, looking at the quality of that cavalry unit, and then looking at the tanks, like the rapid dagger and things like that. But moving on to our next question, we've already done who is Minimaker for, because you answered that in your previous statement. So, we've already answered the fourth one as well, actually. Well, why get 3D printed models rather than the usual routes? Well, we've both answered that bit. So, let's move on to the crux of the video, rather than repeating ourselves. How far...
Wait, hold on a second, if I could, regarding why buy 3D prints. One of the main things I was leading into previously also is the wide availability of models, because one of the advantages is that the minimum production amount for the models is 1. The costs are comparable if I print 1 model or 10 models. There is of course difference, but it is viable financially for me to print 1. So the entire business can be based on the made to order basis, and there are no stock levels, because everything I do is made when someone requests it. So, for example, for the Guard models, as you mentioned, this is one of the very interesting factions, because Games Workshop did a very poor job at supporting their own product there, with introducing so many regiments with completely different background and not following with models for that. So there's no surprise that many sculptors are aiming exactly at that faction, with variety of models representing different looking types of the models, be it jungle fighters or guys from a frozen world, desert world. And there's absolutely no limit to the availability of these particular models, because they can be printed at will, made to order.
That's brilliant. I really do like the compartmentalization of 3D printing is pretty astounding. So, I really wanted I was jumping ahead because I really want your opinion on this last one. How far are we from 3D printing becoming the main source of miniatures in wargaming, do you think?
So, I don't think that 3D printing will ever be the main source, okay. nor should it, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Of course, this would take away some of the bread that I could earn for myself, but I see it more as an alternative to traditional production of wargaming models, not as something that should supplant the things that we have right now. And I don't think that 3D printing means downfall of companies like Games Workshop, and it shouldn't. I think it's just another. It's an alternative. It should be understood, in my opinion, as an alternative, because it's a completely different technology. I cannot do several things as well as companies producing their models in mold injection with plastic, because it's just a different production method. As I said just before, I can print one model and still be profitable. I couldn't make a specific mold for just a single production run of a one model. It would be insane. It would be just money loss. And Games Workshop knows that very well, being the biggest player on the market. So for them, if a faction is not popular enough, it is not paying so many bills as a faction that sells very well. Being, for example, in their case, Space Marines, or previously in Fantasy, I don't know, Chaos or the Empire. And that's I think why you have so many smaller factions not being so very well expressed in the lore or in miniature range. But in case of 3D printing, you can print one miniature and still be profitable, but it wouldn't be competitive. You couldn't offer a competitive alternative for 10,000 pieces of the same model. Then plastic mold injection takes over, and you're out of your game.
So you're I think that's really interesting, because most of the time when I ask this question, especially to the layperson who isn't really sequestered in 3D printing, they say, oh, it'll be a couple of years and then Games Workshop will be out of business, or it'll be about 5-6 years and they'll be really hard up against the wall because it is what it is, and there's almost people hoping for that. But what you're saying is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there is space for both parties. There is space for 3D printing to really fill the gap that Games Workshop leave behind, and there is also space for Games Workshop to use their injection process to make vast amounts of single pieces and models. And let's be honest, in terms of wargaming companies, Games Workshop, in my opinion, do make the best models. Like, they just do. I really like certain Games Workshop models. But in terms of 3D printing, I think these are astounding models to be looking at for the price that we're looking at them for, as an alternative. But I think that is a refreshing take, because usually you do get people saying, well, it's almost like bashing on Games Workshop and saying, no, they shouldn't exist, and da-da-da-da-da. But I like the fact that you're saying, no. Number one, they get to protect their own intellectual property, and they should, and people shouldn't steal. Number one. Number two, in that, here we are, both sections should have their own lane. You should be able to go and get 3D printing as much as you like, and Games Workshop should play ball with that. But you also should be able to have Games Workshop as a part of the ecosystem, maybe the main part of the ecosystem. It means that there's lots of room around the watering hole for everybody to get a taste. Do you know what I mean? Even if Games Workshop are taking up a good portion of the watering hole, they can't have it all, even though they do want it all. I think the only time 3D printing would struggle, and this is just my personal opinion, is if number one, Games Workshop's prices came down, which is never going to happen, and number two, if they vastly updated their entire range for Warhammer 40,000, then we'd be seeing a real 3D printing, or when there's only a $2 or $3 difference between the two, you go with the original, right? You go with the one that you can actually play with at most tournaments and things like that. Just in case you ever do play at tournaments. But when there's such a vast difference, sometimes in quality, nobody can look at me seriously and say, Games Workshop for Bretonnia models are better than this. Because you'd be lying. Do you know what I mean? You'd be lying. They're literally not better than this.
Well, I think if they did a refresh with aim to make modern day standard sculpts, they would be of a similar sculpt quality. This particular sculptor that did these Rangers aims at more realistic style, more human-like proportions. I have another range of models that is more old school looking. That's why that's one of the examples how I want to introduce variety or choice, because I am a huge fan of old looking chunky models. I have a huge army of metal Games Workshop dwarves, which look amazing, and I love them. And I do understand people loving this style. And I think that if Games Workshop would want to update these models, they totally could. With Old World, the idea was to reuse the existing molds, and I think that's great. They have the property. Why not use it? So almost everything you see are more like over 20-year-old sculpts, and they just cannot compare to whatever is done nowadays for Age of Sigmar. And they won't be able to produce everything, even being as big as they are. And that's wargaming. But we both are more into wargaming personally, I guess, than RPG or display painting. But also these two parts of the hobby that sometimes cross with wargaming, sometimes they do not. That's something I aim at as well, because not many companies have possibilities or means to supply every type of models. For example, if you see at the offer from Games Workshop, there are absolutely no models in 75mm scale. There are no busts except for limited runs from Forge World. So this is also something I wanted to address with 3D printing, because as I said, one piece, that's also already a viable financially option. So all display painters, and I don't mean only people painting for Golden Demon, because that's a very specific painting competition, but there is another, like, a bit separate world of display painters painting for fun or for competition, that prefer bigger models, bigger scales, or busts, or some other creative dioramas. And also, there are many RPG models that will never be mass produced because, for example, someone needs them for a single encounter.
Yeah.
Or there is a journey a character goes through and they change over this journey. So a player playing that PC wants to reflect these changes with a model. So they will change the model from time to time, but they only need one with some specific attributes or some kind of equipment. So for these kind of needs, you will never see a very full offer of mass-produced models, because the need changes, like, depending on the person.
I see what you mean. So I guess we've answered all the questions. I guess we're there. Is there anything you would like to say to wrap up? Just to, because I'm going to do a little bit of a spiel about your store before we go.
So regarding my store, as I said, I'm adding the models all the time. So if you, dear viewer, or whoever would hear about me, if you don't see something you like, or you would want me to include something, just let me know, because I'm always in the process of adapting the offer. If I don't have something online or uploaded to the store, I may still have it, but only didn't have the time yet to get to it. And also, if the offer or whatever I do should be changed in any way, I'm open for discussion. I'm here, available, and always happy to get new ideas about how to change the operation that I have.
This is the great thing about it, is people get in on the ground floor. If you want direct access to the merchant who's selling you these models, now's the time to get in there and say, I want one of these, or I want one of these. Now is the time. All right, so the promo code will be in the description. We will sort that out and get it on there, going back and forth. And also, happy to announce, or most of you know anyway, that Minimaker will be making a weekly appearance in terms of a advertisement on our videos from next week, so looking forward to that. Use the promo code down below to get yourself some money off of your lovely models if you want more like mine, because I'm going to get me a few armies over the next couple of weeks, and definitely getting that Santa model, the Dwarf Santa from a missus. She's also already got her eye on that one. So cheers, Shemek, cheers mate, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Right, cheers man. Bye guys, bye now.